And welcome to season 2, episode 1 of Talks About Cast. We are two local, humble preachers of the gospel. I'm really the humble one. Miles is the world-renowned collegiate minister slash pastor slash in-demand speaker all over the country. Miles, how are you, buddy?
I'm super tired. No, I'm good. Doing really well. Seems like summer went pretty crazy. You're in a different location there, old Chris. I guess we might as well just end the spoil, right? For those who aren't here and know, old Chris took a job and now is moved up into moved down to the eastern side of the great state of where, Chris?
Well, I'm in East Texas now. I don't know that it's necessarily a step up in those terms, but it is something different. So yeah, we've seen a lot of changes over the last 3 months, haven't we, Miles? Since we did our last one.
We sure have. And you're super close to like all the crawfish and all the kind of food that I enjoy a lot.
Yeah, a lot of Cajun food down here, a lot of seafood. Yeah.
Have you started picking up the French Cajun yet?
No. We don't have a lot of like actual Cajuns. We have Cajun seafood. We have Cajun food, but not a lot of Cajuns.
I gotcha.
So, yeah.
But it's definitely more of a southern thing, right? Where you're at, southern-ish.
Yes, it's much more of a southern culture than where we were. And in some ways that's good. In some ways it's maybe not as good. I mean, it's just it's not even a question of good or bad, right? It's just a question of different.
Sure, that's fair. I feel like with the video that we have to be good. Like, isn't there this overwhelming sense of we've got to be?
I can't make faces at you anymore.
But maybe. Go ahead.
But maybe we'll just get so far into the conversation we'll forget that we're recording, and it'll have more of a natural feel to it.
Yeah, maybe so. But this is the way we have to communicate, bro. You had to up and leave me, so.
Well, so do you want to share with everybody any changes to your weekly routines?
Well, since you left and feel God's calling to East Texas, the church has asked me to kind of step up and fill in your role here. So I am the interim pastor of a humble church in the great part of northwestern Oklahoma.
Yep.
A lot to say there. I'm still doing the college thing, which just kicked off. So if the viewers could see my eyes, they're very like purple because I don't get much. I don't get much sleep anymore, and so life has been going pretty busy, but it's been good. I've been told now by a couple students that I'm guessing the preaching has just kind of helped. I don't know what to say, like even me out. Maybe I don't know if that's the right word, but kind of knock off some of those harsher edges, or maybe just the way my voice is. I just think it's because I'm wore out, dude. Like my voice is just tired, so it just kind of brings it down some. And so, but it's been good. You left. I just decided to keep preaching in the same place you were. So Romans.
Yep.
Which we'll talk about our preaching in just a minute, because you're preaching. Obviously, you didn't just pick up where you left off here.
No.
I'd been pretty wild for the beginning. And so, yeah. So that's been a change, but it's been good. Been really good. The church is. It definitely has a lot of grace with or for me in this time. So,
yeah, a lot of good people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we'll see. Maybe you'll get some hate comments in the, what a bum, those kinds of things. You being the local humble guy, though, probably not. You were just so humble in your way over here.
Speaking of the local humble guy, it's not gonna let me change it.
Nah, you can't put it. You'll have to get on top of that next time.
I was going to change my name over here in the bottom left to local humble pastor, but it wouldn't let me do that.
Yeah, I'm just going to make sure that it doesn't let you do that now. I'm going to maybe let me change your name, and I'll just put random things in there. Be like a little Easter egg.
Big jerk.
Yeah, no. So with the move come things. So I guess just for season 2, we'll just jump right into a conversation of, we've talked about change before and how it is, it's always going to happen. And so since you've changed majors, been some major changes for both of us. Let's talk about how that's affected like you in the pulpit, or just you in the general. We'll just start with a generality of how is it, because I mean, the crowd we're reaching are college students whose lives are always changing. And even adults, or just people, I should say. I don't know if adults is the right word. In their setting, in their lives, and different things are changing. So maybe that'd be a way we just jump off and begin season 2. So let's talk about change, Bray.
Okay, let's do it.
That's so crazy. Well, I'm gonna let you start. You did the biggest change. I mean,
once you get a routine, specific context change. I mean, you're preaching in a different room, a different worship center, and so it's got a different feel. It's a much bigger room than what I'm used to. But as far as the week to week, I mean, it really doesn't change all that much. My routine is very much the same as it was when I was there in Northwest Oklahoma with you guys. And so from that standpoint, it hasn't really changed much at all. Now, there are different levels of expectation. And so, if you move to a bigger situation, a bigger church, there are going to be different kinds of demands that are going to be placed on you. I don't have the freedom here that I had maybe in other places, because there's just more responsibility in terms of people, meetings, just the administration of a church this size. So that's quite a bit different. I think I was talking with you on my first day here, where I left my office at 9 to go check up on some things that were happening around the building, and didn't get back to my office until 1:30, and never left the campus. I mean, it wasn't like, I took off and, went to go run some errands or checked on people in the hospital or something like that. It's just, here we've got a school, and we've got a full-time daycare, and there's just so many things going on, that, it forces you to get better at some things that maybe you didn't have to do a lot of at other places you read. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Like, so like what I'd ask, I don't know if you want me to share this, but I guess I'm going to anyways. And there's no editing at this point. We're just raw, live, just like footage here. Is like,
well, these are candid conversations.
Yeah. So I'm going to be candid. Yes. So like, cause I know I'm going to let you be candid with me as well, but the idea, like your thing is preaching, and I would say relational things. So the admin side is where kind of like you would say, or would you say that admin is kind of a place that you can do, but you don't excel in? Like it's not your,
but we have to define our terms, right? Because administration can be a lot of different things.
Sure.
So if we just think of administration as organization, well, one facet of that is the ability to put people in places where they are going to do well.
Sure.
If you've got the ability to identify different personality types or even different gifts or talents, and bring those people together to accomplish something, that is a form of administration.
Sure.
That side of it, I think I'm actually pretty good at. Right. But I'm never going to be the guy that's going to sit down and write, a manual on how to change the light bulbs and how often they should be changed. Or,
sure.
I'm not the guy who's going to, rewrite the personnel policy manual.
Sure.
That's just not who I am. I'm not going to take time away from studying to preach and teach, in order to do those things. It's not that those things don't need to be done. It's just that those things don't need to be done by me. I've got other people around me that can do that. And so if they can do it at least 80% as well as I can, then I'm honestly wasting my time by doing it.
Right.
And so, here I'd made the comment to the search committee that I wasn't a good administrator but I didn't really define that or clarify that. I just left it. And so there's this perception that when it comes to administration, I mean, I'm just a drooling mess.
Sure.
And that's not really accurate.
That's
It's
fair.
just that, I have a sense of what my priorities in ministry are. And so that's where I'm going to spend the majority of my time.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess, well, I mean, you kind of did. I didn't mean to put you in a spot where you had to feel a little defensive, but I mean, I know you're not. I know you're not. But what I mean is like, so in the thought of, or in the idea of changing, right, and going into this place, like you saw that it was going to be bigger, like, and so, and I guess the reason I want to point that out, not that to talk and put any difference on the church you were at or nothing like that, but just knowing that you're going to go into something that is so much bigger. I mean, you and I talk about doubts that we have in our lives, right? Like where there have been seasons in our life where we've doubted we've been able to do something, right? Like we're like when we first go into something, the enemy creeps in and starts to push us in a place where we're like, where normally we'd be okay, but then all of a sudden in this moment, there's this sense of doubt or you know what I mean? Like a hesitancy in that. And I guess that's kind of what I was meaning, so that you could kind of talk about if that happened, if it didn't happen, and if it did happen, how did you process that? How do you deal with those types of things? Because I think that's something that someone listening or watching, I guess now, could benefit from. I mean, obviously, because they're, obviously going to be walking into new stages of life, and there's going to be, especially right out of college, going to be tons of doubt, right? I mean, education and then practicality are two different things, right? I mean, coming in and with a knowledge of base and then doing it are two different things. So does that make sense? What I'm asking you?
And to answer your question, yeah, of course. I mean, there was a lot. I mean, especially after that first week. I mean, after those first couple of days, I mean, my head was absolutely swimming. One is, you're in a new place. You haven't even figured out where your socks are yet.
Sure.
Or, I guess in my case, I should say shirts. So I don't really wear socks, but
sure.
You don't know where anything is. You don't know where anything is in the building. And so they say, hey, we're going to be meeting over in this room over here. And you're like, okay, well, where's that? I mean, you don't even know the basic things. Now at this church, I have my own bathroom.
Sure.
So I'm not wandering around, trying to figure out where all of that is. But yeah, I mean, those first couple of days, I mean, it was, there were several moments where I thought to myself, man, what have I done?
Sure.
Lord, I followed you in this because because it was, my wife and I were convinced that it was time, and that we were, that this was the time, and that this was your will, and that this was your plan. But I don't know if I can do this. I mean, I don't know if I can be that guy. And especially because I followed a guy here who was a really good administrator. And so I don't know if I can be that guy. But I've got a really good team around me who have been able to help me kind of navigate through some of the things that have come up. And they've been exceptionally helpful. But once you kind of get into the routine, the routine and the habits that you form are pretty much going to be with you everywhere you go. And so that's what I would tell somebody who's young is, establish those good habits early. Because then later on, when you're given more responsibility, regardless of your specific career or your specific area of work, those good habits are going to go with you, no matter where you go. And so, were there doubts early on? Yeah, there were. But then, like I said, once you kind of get into the routine, you kind of understand the way it flows and the way this church functions. And that's another thing. If you're talking about ministry, every church is different.
Sure.
And so part of the challenge is to try to figure out, okay, what is different about this place? What are the different expectations? What are the different requirements? Et cetera, et cetera. So I came from a church there in Northwest Oklahoma, and this isn't a bad thing. This is going to sound like I'm being critical, and I'm not being critical. In fact, I thought it was really a good thing. Where we didn't fill up the calendar with a bunch of stuff.
Sure.
There weren't people up at the church, 7 days a week until late at night. Well, that's not the way it is here. I mean, there's stuff going on up here all the time. We've got Bible studies that meet literally throughout the week. I mean, every night of the week, there's a Bible study going on somewhere in the building. There are other meetings and other ministries going on, and so it's just a very busy, a lot of activity kind of atmosphere. And so just trying to navigate through some of that a little bit and trying to figure out, okay, what do I need to do? What do I not have to do? All of those things are part of going to a new church.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's safe to say that just getting, which we alluded to a lot in the last seasons, is just being able to do those spiritual disciplines. Like, because even in those times of when you're having to figure out these new, which are going to be disciplines as well, but new disciplines in your area, like with your job and all those things, that overwhelming when it comes, or even just the voice of the enemy, especially in ministry, because you're having this voice tell you that, hey, I don't know that you can do this or whatever that is, or, do this instead of do that. You can just rely on going back to the scripture, your prayer time, and all those things. And even though you may not do them extremely well, but knowing how to just get into that space is going to help calm the noise and calm the nerves and help you be able to set that routine. I think that's really good. I think here, I ain't gonna lie to you, it's just been time management. It's been super, super difficult. You talked to me, you said something, and I think I called you. Was it yesterday? Did I call you yesterday? I don't remember what it was, but you said you're gonna have to manage your time better. I was like, how you say something, we've talked about this, when you don't really know how it's gonna come across to that person. I didn't take it well. And I didn't say nothing to you, but I didn't take it well because I got very defensive. Like, well, man, I'm doing the best I can, but you weren't wrong. And in that way. And so, especially when you're doing, I'm preaching essentially twice a week, and different subjects and different things. And then on top of that, Sunday school, as well. And then just trying to lead, have a team of leading people and those things. And then of course, just church business that, maybe I do a little too much to myself, but is just, you're not wrong. The time management is extremely important. I still have a family, still have all those other things that are would even say are, more important in some aspects. And so just having to, someone to say that, even because you didn't say it in a malicious way, but you said it very quick. Like when I was talking to you, it was like this instant, you're like, hey, you got to manage your time better. And it was just us talking like we always talk. So it wasn't like you were, getting on to me or even chastising. It was more of just you saying it. And I just didn't respond well in my heart and in my mind because, I get so worked up with, well, I'm doing it. I'm doing my best. I'm doing those things, but I've watched it, I've seen it in me, and I've seen how if I don't start to do these things different, I am going to burn very quickly. Like what is the old saying? The candle is definitely burning at both ends, and you can't sustain that. And so just trying to, like today, thinking through just the passage and just thinking about how God chose me to do anything, as you're driving and you're looking at the sunrise or whatever it is, and you're just kind of overtaken because you've spent all this time prepping and, maybe didn't let it sink in as hard as you needed it to. And then all of a sudden the Spirit, kind of grabs you and says, hey, you're doing this for me, and this word is for you too, not just for what you're doing in your space and time. This is something that you need to hear yourself and understand, because, there's some arrogance that can come in prep and you know what I mean? And teaching the Bible and those things. And it's just, my style is different than yours, and following, it's interesting. I get to talk to the guy that I follow, you know what I mean? Normally this doesn't happen. Like we don't get to have candid conversations with the guy that used to be here. And so there's big shoes to fill because I know how you preached and I knew all those things. And this is a very highly educated crowd. Now, I've told you this before. That makes me nervous. It always has. It's always made me extremely nervous. And when because the enemy gets me very well. You're not the guy. You're not this. Your education, and that's crazy because I still have education, but still, it's still that sense of, of defeat a little bit that you're like, well, maybe I'm not this guy. Or when you stumble over your words, or you deal with a hard text like what I've been doing since you've left. Romans 10 was fine. Romans 10 was fun. But then Romans 11 has been very difficult. And so, and all while you're still trying to bring it to a place where all people are understanding, from kids to older seasoned adults. And so it's been interesting, but you are absolutely right. It's being able to come to a place, I think it's of humility, right? Of saying to God, I'm not enough, but with you, I can be enough. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And
that's exactly right.
And so it's just coming through those disciplines. I think that can go along with no matter what you're doing. Well, it will go along with no matter what you're doing, ministry or taxes, because we got to shout out the old runner. Sorry.
Yeah, old gunner.
and or any of those things, because life tends to get overwhelming in a lot of times and places, and so that's good. I don't think you want to turn around. I saw your bald head, dude, in the back of it.
Don't worry about it.
Should draw a little smiley face on there. Don't
worry about it. So you're kind of getting your first taste of pastoring, and it's an interim role and all of that, but it is a glimpse into that life and that path. And so what has surprised you the most about it so far? Like what are the one or two things that you that you think to yourself, okay, I wasn't really quite ready for this, or I didn't know that it would be like this?
I think probably just the prep time. And I know that sounds bad, because I still prep for my Wednesday nights as well. But there's so much more that comes along with the church, as far as business. Like if you're in the office, there are other things that need to be done as well. And especially in the interim role, you're only here for a lot amount of time. And they, I think some of it is myself, because I'm, just trying to be helpful. And so I put a lot on that, but on the other side is they still need help. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so you still have to navigate it. And so being able to just being able to manage my time when I'm here well, like, hey, tell, the secretary or someone or the youth guy, hey, I'm going to be here, but don't, unless something's on fire or something bad is happening, leave me alone for the half of this day. You know what I mean? I'm just needing to get ready for Sunday so that I can do the family stuff and not think about it. Obviously right. You're still going to think about it, but in the sense of I'm not scrambling. I'm not having to stay up late. I'm not having to do all those things, which I'm not doing well right now. So, so that's been the difficult. And I know that even if this was a full-time thing, I would still struggle there, because I know myself. One thing you and I have talked about is, I'm that guy, the doer. I think it's procrastination inside of me. Is when I know I have to do one task that I'm not as good at, I can go paint or go fix something because I know I can do that and it'd be simple. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And so I have to figure that out. And so that's one thing that has just been a reminder to me, because even in the college ministry, I'm still with people. I'm still discipling. I'm still doing all those things. And so it helps the prep as well, because you're doing it while you're thinking it through and the text and all those things. Where at the church, you're thinking through the text and you're trying to be not broad, but you're trying to hit a spectrum of all people. You know what I mean? I'm at the college ministry, I am specific. I'm hitting a specific group with a specific thing, But in this setting, you have college students, you have professors, you have teachers, you have farmers, you have ranchers, and the list can go on and be plethora full of things. And so you have to paint specifically but broadly at the same time with your paintbrush. And so that prep time has been harder than I imagined. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what about this? I remember before I became a pastor, I had a lot of opinions about the way pastoring ought to be, or what pastors ought to do. Sure. And, how they should handle certain things that come along. And then after I became a pastor, I realized that a lot of those things were a lot more nuanced than I thought there were. And so have you experienced that yet? Because, even in the role of interim pastor, you're called into situations that before you have that title put on you, you might have said, well, this is really pretty simple.
Sure.
This is what you should do. But now that you're in those situations, you see, okay, wait a minute. This really isn't that simple, and this is pretty complex, and this is a lot more gray or nuanced than I thought it was. Have you experienced that yet?
Sure. Feel like that was a loaded question, in a sense.
Not at all.
In some ways, yes. I have, when I was in the youth pastor role, the pastor left after I was there for a year. So I kind of had some of those things, like the nuanced things. But I was still the youth guy. Here, I'm not the youth guy. I am the interim pastor. So there's a little more weight with it than it was.
Yeah.
It feels that way. And, you're trying to, yes, I have. That's the simple answer is yes. There are things that I have always known would be tough to navigate. But then there are things that you have to just suck up and take it on the chin because you can't, how do I say it? You just can't be as negative, or you just can't be as pointed as you really want to be, because it doesn't show the grace that God has shown, or just you as a Christian should show.
Right.
And so there are definitely those times. There's been a couple of those things. One of them is just my preaching style. And I'm not everybody's cup of tea when it comes to that. And, I honestly don't know how to navigate that, because I feel like God has given me a gift to be the way that Miles is. And I've found my voice, if that makes any sense. One thing I tried, or God used or did in me, was find my voice very quickly. As far as my style, does that make sense? Where I'm not trying to, I tried to emulate people before, and I'm not them. And so I can't do that. And so to hear someone critique me, that was difficult. But I don't know how to change it. I tried. I mean, I still try. I don't just go out looking for a fight. You know what I mean? No, man, I'm going to do whatever I want. No, I don't do that. But at the same time, I am Miles, and I preach just the way I always have. And I feel like God has honored me just by doing what he's called me to do. So there have been a few things. Yeah. a few things.
I think on the preaching style, what you say is right, because ultimately God has called you with your personality, with your background, with, all of that. He has called you to this task. And so, but at the same time, there's always that desire, and there should be that desire of, how can I be a better preacher? Are there things that I'm doing that are maybe taking away from the message, and how do I change those things without changing the whole thing, and then end up trying to be somebody that I'm not? So now I'm David trying to wear Saul's armor that doesn't really fit me.
Yeah.
When I was in my second church, I would say the word gang a lot. Like I would refer to the church as a gang. Hey gang, we need to do this. Hey gang, we need to do that. And somebody came to me one day and said, you really need to stop using that word. Because, when you say gang, everybody's thinking about the Crips and,
sure. Yeah.
the problems that we had
the actual gangs.
in the 90s. And so that was a little thing that I could stop doing that would make that would remove an obstacle, right? But that it wouldn't necessarily involve me changing my entire approach to the task, my entire approach to the thing. And so that's where, I think it becomes a little bit challenging is, okay, so how do I get better without just throwing it all out and starting it over and trying to be somebody that I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a tough thing, but you are right. There's still, and I think I would say this to anybody, that feels confident in who they are, you still should grow. And so while you take those criticisms, there's something in there. I think not all, don't get me wrong, there are still some criticisms that are just bad. Like they're just someone being hurtful or spiteful. But then there's also those criticisms of a critic or just to make you better. I had the word, but I lost it. Constructive criticism is what I was looking for. There are those things. And so, I always try to weigh them out. I definitely seek people around me to that I don't normally ask. I normally don't go asking people how I preach. I just don't.
Right.
I'm not. Hey, bro, what'd you think today? Oh, that was good.
Hey, how great was I today?
You're just doing the pointing thing. You're like, hey, yes, yeah. No, I don't. I don't do that. But on a particular occasion, I did, just because I was curious. And I had some people tell me, you were a little great, like people that listen to me often, like college students that know me personally and know me well. And I did ask them, and they just said, you just seem very nervous. And so the mic and, I'm a sound booth nightmare, dude, especially when you're not used to me. You know what I mean? Like in the college setting, I don't use a mic. And so here, and just the drasticness, because it was my first Sunday, your first Sunday gone. The drasticness and tone between the two of us was different. And the mic was definitely higher and louder and hotter than it should have been. But this is all growing pains with each other, right? They're growing with me, I'm growing with them. And so, some of it was that, but also some of it was just nerves. And so the more I do it, the more you just kind of settle into who you are, and people will get used to you, and you do your thing. And I think as a Christian, that's kind of the way you should approach everything you're doing. Even in the workplace, you settle in, but you maintain your Christian lifestyle. You maintain your position with Christ as you learn your new position in the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Nice.
That
wasn't too bad. Look at us, bruh. Still doing it.
I mean, we still got the magic.
I was waiting for you to say something not so humble, but you didn't do it. You didn't take the bait. Well, Miles, well,
anyways. We're doing the best we can with what the Lord gave us.
That's right, bro. That's right. Okay, well, just continue thinking in those veins. I'm trying to think of something else we could talk about, but I can't.
See what's hard, what's a little uncomfortable about this time around is, what should we say? What should we not say?
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean?
That's fair. No, I do know, because we're both in positions that what we say now carry a little more weight than they used to.
Well, I mean, there are certainly some thoughts that we've shared in private that we probably need to need to stay away from. So yeah, sure. Well,
then let's just keep moving on into just this idea of just changing hard things or whatever. Let's just keep in the hard thing card. That's fine with you. So, how would you tell people? Like today, I preached Romans 11. 25 through 36, 32 through 36 is pretty simple. Doxology. Paul moves from hard teaching straight into praise because, that he's praising God because even in all of this, God is still in control. God is still saving people, and God is still in that business of holding his people to himself. So How do you navigate those hard passages? What would you say to someone that grew up different? Like I kind of hit a little bit on growing up dispensational. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we're thinking that the world is going to come to an end when the last person hears the gospel, or Israel's position and all those things. How would you, man? How would you tell someone to listen and I know you're going to say keep an open mind, but how would you tell someone to do that? You know what I mean? Like when you and I are pretty set in our theological ways, in a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
But there still is benefit in listening to someone, right? That's maybe smarter than us, or just someone that holds a different view, so that we can say, we can flesh it out for ourselves, right? Do what Paul says, work it out in our own self and own spirit. You don't know the question, do you?
I'm trying to figure out what the question was.
The question is
how do you dialogue with people who believe differently than you do on
essentially, yeah. Even if you're not dialoguing, you're just in a church. Like I'm passing through in East Texas, and there's this guy up there preaching Romans 9, and I don't hold to the election in the same way he's preaching, whether it be whatever it is, either side of that coin. Pick a coin.
Yeah.
How would you tell someone to not just shut down because you don't believe the same way they do, and keep that dialogue open?
So here I've got a group of people who reject what I think is a pretty fundamental gospel point. And there was a similar situation there where you're at, over the same issue, where someone grew up in a different branch of Christianity, a different denomination, where they don't hold to a certain, again, I think it's a pretty fundamental, pretty important point. And so, everything else, they seem pretty squared away. Everything else, they seem pretty solid, but there's a pretty serious disagreement in a particular area. And so how do you deal with that? Well, yes, I do think that you listen respectfully. You keep as open mind as you can, but again, it depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about, I don't know. I mean, if we're talking about, let's say, speaking in tongues versus the deity of Christ, well, those are two different kinds of conversations, right? And so, like Friday night, because I'm doing football on the radio here, we had about a 2-hour drive to a town called Jasper, and the young man that I was riding with is a Catholic, and so we were talking about Catholicism a little bit, and kind of where he was at, and where, obviously where I'm coming from. And so, you listen, and then you just, for me, like, I just look for opportunities, I just look for opportunities to kind of interject. Well, have you ever thought about it like this? Or have you ever considered it like this? Now that's one-on-one conversations. I think one-on-one, you need, I think it's better to be respectful. I think it's better to be quiet. I think it's better to listen as much as you can. But, when we get into the pulpit, that's a different thing. The pulpit is not the place for, and again, it depends on what we're talking about, but the pulpit is not the place for, well, it could be this or it could be that. Maybe we should worship Mary, or maybe we shouldn't. Right, to use that particular example, or say like the issue of eternal security. Some people understand eternal security, once saved, always saved, as kind of almost being a peripheral issue. It's not fundamental to the doctrine. I don't see it that way. I think it is fundamental to the gospel, and I think it's a very important aspect of the gospel. And so if I'm talking to somebody one-on-one about that particular topic, I do want to be respectful, and I do want to hear them out, and I do want to try to understand their position. But when I'm in the pulpit is not the place for, hear the arguments for and hear the arguments against, and you pick, bro. I mean, that's not the place of the
No,
pulpit.
sure.
The place for the
Yeah.
pulpit is the absolute firm declaration of what God's word says. Now, if you're dealing with a passage that you don't know, maybe you've looked at it all week and you just can't come to any real, like, the passage in First Peter where Peter talks about Jesus going into the prison and preaching to the spirits, right?
Yeah.
Like, I could understand on a passage like that where you say, well, here are, 4 or 5 different interpretations or understandings of this. I'm not really sure which one is correct, but here are the main, views of thought. And then you move on to the rest of the text.
Sure.
But when it comes to like fundamental doctrines like eternal security or, things of that ilk, the pulpit is not the place for, well, I know some of y'all disagree and, and it's okay, dirty dirt, the pulpit is the place for the declaration. And like what I would do there is that I would always come back to, this is the official doctrinal position of this church.
Sure.
This is what this church believes. And so that way it's not just me attacking anybody, but rather it's saying that as a church, we have adopted this as our position on this particular topic. Because I just don't think the pulpit is the place for wishy-washy. Maybe it's this. Maybe we're predestined. Maybe it's free will. I don't think the pulpit is the place for that.
Sure. I think I can't remember who told me. I think I might have been listening to Steve Gaines and one of the things that we were put on, like preaching conference that I went to, and he said, "In the pulpit, I am not your friend. Right. In the pulpit, I am the messenger that God has chosen to use." I'm one of those that I'm going to believe that as well. I mean, I believe that when God's word is being declared in a setting like that, that it is God's word being declared. And now if it's heresy, it's heresy. It doesn't matter who's saying it.
Sure. Right.
But if we're talking about tenets that when I come down off the platform and you want to talk through them, even though I'm going to hold to what I think the scriptures say, like we use eternal security, I'm going to point to that and say, this is the position, and this is how we get there. But from the pulpit, I'm going to be very direct to you. Like today, I was very direct in saying that very thing, that when God secures us, we're secured. Right. He doesn't let go. I mean, and you see that through all the scriptures, and even in Romans 11 of how the Jews are rejecting Christ for now, but there will come a time when that God allows them to come, the ones that he elect, not all of Israel, right? You have to read the whole thing.
Yeah.
But that God is going to secure them, and as a Gentile, when I read that, I know that if God is going to secure his people like that, he's going to secure me like that. Yeah. And so in the pulpit, I'm very much there. You're exactly right. There are things that you're just like, this is it. And this is what the scriptures say. If you don't like me, be like a Berean and look it up. Do it. Right. Do your own research and, take responsibility for what God has called you to do and read the scriptures. And I know people hearing this, they're like, well, that's pretty harsh, but from the pulpit, it's like you said, we don't have time not to be direct.
Yes.
We have 40, anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes to tell you whatever we feel like God has said in this text. And I don't have time to waste. You really have, like I said, you're painting very narrow but broadly at the same time. And so you have this short amount of time to do it. Well, I think that's really good. Yeah. And I think it's also just beneficial to just listen and let the Spirit do its work in you. I mean, you and I have talked about this, of just being harsh of people, like listening to other people instead of letting, the words, letting the Spirit change whatever needs to be fixed. You know what I mean? You gave the example of the professor that you had talked to, that his wife had learned something big in the preaching, but all he could remember was the critiques he had for it. Right.
Right.
But he didn't say anything because she was getting, God was using, the Spirit was doing what the Spirit does and was writing on her heart and those things. Right. And I think for myself, even, we've talked about all the places that we get to go to and hear people preach that we're like, well,
yeah.
But, God could still be saying things to us as well. And so, Yeah, it's good.
And I think you always need, and I really liked what Steve Gaines said because it's true. But even with that, I'm also reminded that we're still called to love our people. So even when we say something that might be harsh or might be difficult for them to swallow, what's our heart in that? Is our
Sure.
heart in that to be provocative? Is our heart that we want to be shocking? Or is our heart that, hey, we love these people and we want them to be who God created them to be, but this is something that they're missing. And so like with your kids, when you correct your children, you don't do it hopefully because you don't love them. You
Right.
do it because you do love them. And you know that if this doesn't get fixed, then it's going to cause them a lot more pain down the road.
Yeah.
And so I think it's always important, even when we have to say something that's difficult, I think it's always important to remember that we're doing this ultimately because we love Jesus, but also we're doing it because we love his people.
Yeah. No, that's really good. That's really good. Well, yeah, it's a pretty good topic for the day, bro.
Yeah.
Looks just like that. 46 minutes in, bro.
There you go.
Look at you. Well, so
who are we going to have on next week?
I don't know. Dude, you're asking too much at this point. I don't know, but we need to figure that out. Or even if we're gonna move into.
Hey, let's just get old Runner out of the way first, because I'm sure he's got some bitterness.
Hey, we still love you, Gunner, or Runner.
We do love you, Gunner.
Whatever your name is in the context we're using it. Well, on that note, well, let me finish this way. Are you teaching Sunday school as well? Where you're at,
No.
or do you get it? No. Oh.
Mm-mm. I mean, I may start, but I'm not doing it now.
Nice. I've started doing Sunday school again. I mean, I did it a little while, but I've started doing it as well. We're going to go through what it's like to have a healthy church and then be a healthy church member. I feel like, especially I'm doing that weird age where you're not old enough to be in the old people class, but you're not young enough to be in the college class anymore. And so I just feel like it's a good way to.
Are you going to do the 9 marks?
Actually, I bought we got the books.
Yeah.
And then also get to do new members class. That, yours truly, bro. Yours truly wrote it, which would be you, not me. Sorry. You are the humble pastor. So
as with a lot of things, we would say I wrote it / edited it / compiled it. Well, I don't put my name on it.
That's right. What is it? It's like that Office quote. You miss all the shots you don't shoot. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott, or something like that. However he says it. Yeah.
I can't remember exactly how he put it. He had a weird twist on it. Yeah. Wayne Gretzky and then underneath Michael Scott. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that kind of does the same thing. So, well, cool. Well, man, it's always good to hang out with you. Now, this is our new time to see each other. There's no shenanigans.
Now, full disclosure, you are coming down in January.
Oh, that is true. I guess we could do a live
because we're having you down for a community-wide youth event, and you're going to be down with us for a couple of days. Yeah.
And then again, mission trip wise, bro.
Yeah, and then mission trip.
That's right. So
yeah, we'll get you to preach a couple times down here.
That'll be exciting. I do actually like East Texas, so it's very nice. All right, bro. Well, it's all in good fun. Sorry, Gunner. I don't know if we have to come up with a new tagline, unless that's going to be our thing. Yeah,
I know. I'm going to have to think of something.
That's right. Well, nothing else. Joe Rogan still says hook 'em, I believe, right?
He does say hook 'em, yeah.
He still says hook 'em, so we can keep that alive. But until next time, we hope to see you again, or at least you get to see us this time. The new video thing. Make sure you like, subscribe, and all of those things. We'll see you next week.
See ya.